so in this video, we are going to talk about what you should know before you buy an FXRT fairing. Let's check it out. Alright, what is going on YouTube? FXDLSBROOKLYN is back in the building. And this video is coming from a mix of both you all just asking me to make this video, because a lot of you all are intrigued by the FXRT fairing even a year later. And it's also a response to our friend Marvel Kid 87, who actually recently dropped a video where he does have an FXRT fairing. He did buy one, but he has a really interesting dilemma where he's trying to figure out if he should put it on his Lowrider S or if he should put it on his 2015 Dyna Lowrider. Him and I were actually talking before he made the video because as someone who's been running this fairing for over a year at this point, he wanted my opinion on it, which thank you Marvel Kid, I do appreciate that. But I am by no means the expert on this fairing. There is a lot of riders out here on the East Coast who ran this fairing way before I did. So I, like yourselves, was also intrigued and influenced by riders who were running this fairing, on a Dyna specifically. But yeah, his dilemma is super interesting, and he actually put a Instagram story poll up, and when I voted on it, it showed me the results, which was literally 50-50, which I just found so funny. It's like you try to get some useful data, and if it's 50-50, that's literally useless if you're having a hard time making a decision about something. Yeah, so originally I told him it's a no-brainer. Just put it on whichever bike you ride more. Whichever bike that you plan on getting more miles on is the bike that it should go on. That's what I think. But then I watched his video and I started thinking about it a little bit more. And I don't know, I'm actually kind of in the same position he might be in, which is, which bike would it be better on? Because a part of me is like, yeah, obviously I'm running it on my own Lowrider S, and I'm very happy with it, definitely haven't looked back. But then I also, in my mind, mock up the image of that fairing matching the white and blue paint on his Lowrider, and I just feel like that could be a very unique looking build. So that's like what's maybe bringing me towards saying that, dude, just put it on your Dyna. But listen, we're getting way sidetracked here. This video is not about Marvel Kid's dilemma, but please do go check out his video and you know, let me know on here, like, what do you think he should do? And then also go check out his video and leave a comment on his video as well, because again, we want to make sure that he goes the right route on this, that he's happy with his decision. So the more data, the more comments, the more opinions on this, the better. So let me know on here, and by all means, go check out his video and let him know. I'm sure he would definitely appreciate it. But, alright, you're in the situation that I've been in like 5 years prior, right? Where I had a couple of friends who were running this fairing. Nick Dyna Navy, of course, Retro Jones, Vinny with the FXRP, and then you got Jose out in New Jersey. So there's a couple influences I had before I even ran it. So I had a lot of people to like ask about it and ask their experiences before I actually bought it. Now I understand that you might be in a place that doesn't necessarily have a heavy club style Dyna scene. So it might not be as easy for you to just show up to a random bike night or whatever and chew someone's ear off about their build. So I'm making this video again. This is really a video that's for if you are really considering buying it, just some things that I kind of wish I knew before I threw it on my bike that I think might be useful for you to know as well. Okay, so the first thing I think you should know about this fairing is, number one, it is a serious investment. right? Most companies are selling this with the primer. Shout out to the Lowrider. And then it's up to you to get that paint on there. So now you got paint, you got installation, you got a new 7-inch headlight that you have to run. It's very quickly going to add up to a couple $1,000s depending on what route you go with installation. Me personally, it was way above my pay grade in terms of trying to install this myself. It's just like that's just not a job I was looking to get into. So I think the first thing you should be taking into consideration is this is definitely one of the higher cost upgrades you're going to do, for sure. Dude, check out this spin class. What is it? Is this Soul Cycle? I don't know what's going on over here, but they're not running 585 cams like me, so whatever, dudes. But yeah, I think it makes sense that it is a very expensive upgrade because as you've seen with my build of this bike, it is going to significantly not only change how the bike performs and rides, but it's also going to significantly change up the look of the bike. You're basically transforming your bike into a completely different bike. So I do think, like, yes, cost is a factor here, but there's a good reason for that. Okay, the next thing you should know if you're thinking about upgrading to this fairing, if you do upgrade it, right? Yes, you're going to have more weight in the front of the bike as compared to something like a T-Sport, Memphis Shades Road Warrior, or a quarter fairing. Obviously, you're going to have more weight to throw around in the front. But you can still dig into and get into the twisties in the same lean angles that you could have if you're running a T-Sport. So, yes, it's not going to affect you being able to lean into those curves, and that's something you should definitely know. So don't think that, like, oh, if I put this fairing on, I'm sacrificing how hard I can lean. That's not the situation.
Let me get a flick of this real fast. Thank you, brother.
Hey, you got it, man. Listen, man, you go ahead and you put that fairing on, you're going to have strangers come and take pictures of you. That's what's going to happen. But yeah, so when I was first thinking about throwing this fairing on, I remember thinking, yeah, I'm going to put the fairing on, but I might be sacrificing how hard I can lean into the twisties. That's not the case. Like, I was just hitting some twisties with Vongasphalt as well as Old Man Armstrong a couple weekends ago, and I could sink this bike into a twisty the same way I was able to when I had my Road Warrior on. So if there's anything that the king of the baggers has taught us, it's that you could still throw a bike around that's running a big fairing. Like, it's if you have the riding skill, it shouldn't affect how hard you're leaning into the twisties, right? Like, one of the best riders I know is my buddy Crazy Jared out of Poughkeepsie, and that dude rides his road glides so hard that basically his entire exhaust and floorboard is scraped off at this point because the dude is just constantly leaning that bike so heavily into every curve. So don't be deterred. Like, don't think that it's gonna affect how hard you're getting into the curves. If you have the riding skill, you could still lean into those twisties. Like, when I'm riding with my buddies with this bike who are running quarter fairings or T-Sports, I have no issue keeping up with them. Okay, but on that note, so what I will say, something that you should know, let's not go down a one-way. New York loves its one-way streets, man. Ah, good old Tillery Street. Okay, but what you should know, so the third thing I think you should know, is the fairing definitely will have an effect on, let's see, how do I quantify this? There's like no unit to quantify this, but let's call it the throwability of the bike. How easily you could throw the bike around. So for example, if you hop on a Sportster, you could throw a Sportster around. It's easy. When I hop on my 06 or my FXR, I could immediately feel the difference where it's just like, yeah, it's way more effortless to throw the bike around. It's just not an issue, right? You'll feel it when you put this fairing on. It's just not as easy to throw around, right? And again, that doesn't mean that it's going to stop you from doing anything. It just means in certain situations, it's going to take a little bit more effort to throw the bike around, specifically in the low speed. But even in the high speed, as I'm talking about, like you crushing twisties, right? I could still feel it when I am diving into a curve where it's like, yeah, I could feel the extra weight. I can't throw the bike into the curve as I was able to throw, say, the bike into the curve when I was running the Road Warrior. That doesn't mean I can't get into the curve. I can. It just means the throwability is going to feel different, all right? Mostly what that's going to affect is riding like I'm doing right now. Which leads me to point number 4 in terms of what you should know. And that's if you're doing riding like I'm doing right now, right? If you're doing a lot of city riding, whether you're in New York City or any other city, and you're having to navigate heavy traffic, then you should know that this fairing is 100% not ideal for that type of riding. All right? So, again, if you plan on getting the most of the use out of this fairing in riding like this, where you're doing a lot of city riding, doing a lot of high traffic riding, maybe you're in a situation where you have to do a lot of lane splitting. Obviously, this is not going to be the ideal situation for you, okay? But what I will say is, say you do live in a city, and say most of your riding is in the city, then it's not bad enough where it should deter you from putting the fairing on if you want it for, let's say, the looks, right? So again, I have no issue riding this bike in this environment with this fairing. I'm just saying, if I was on my FXR or I was on my 06, it would just be easier, right? So again, it'll do it, right? If you have the riding skill, it'll do it, but it's just not the best tool for the job in regards to heavy traffic, heavy urban riding. Which actually will take us on to thing number 5 that you should know. So again, assuming you are in California, right? And you are legally lane splitting, that's right, I'm talking to you guys. You can still lane split with this fairing effectively, all right? So there's a myth out there with a bigger fairing like this that a lot of people think, oh yeah, you throw on that big fairing, you're not going to be able to lane split, or you're not going to be able to get into tactical maneuvering anymore because it comes out so far. But if you guys actually look, the crash bar actually comes out about a ½ inch further than the actual fairing does. So basically, it's the same clearance that I had when I had a Road Warrior on because of the crash bar. So anything that the crash bar is going to clear, the fairing is going to clear. Am I going to lane split as nimbly as I was when I was rocking a Road Warrior? No. You know, it's a lot more weight to throw around in the front. So that means you have to be a little bit more calculating, right? You have to be a little bit more on your game, because if you do have to throw it around quickly, if you do have to stop short, you know, you're not going to get the same nimbleness that you're going to get if you're running a smaller fairing like a Road Warrior. But is it doable? 100% it's still doable. So don't think that you're going to throw this fairing on and you're never going to be able to lane split again. It's not the situation, right? And I knew I was going to say 5 things, but I do think there's a 6th thing that's worth putting in there that a couple of you have asked me about, and that's the airflow. So there's also a myth about this fairing that if you throw this fairing on, you are going to be cutting off pretty much all of your airflow, meaning you're not going to be getting any air on yourself. And I think the big concern about that is folks who are riding in those hot summer days. Oh, we do have to give a shout out to the Notorious B.I.G. over here. That's a beautiful mural. But yeah, a lot of folks reach out and they're like, yeah, are you getting any airflow? How is it on the hot days? So another myth. you will get plenty of airflow on this fairing. So you do know it does have the 2 vents in the front. I'm also running the stock windshield, so I think it's like 8 inches or whatever. It's not the higher Clockworks one. You guys know I'm a little bit shorter, right? I'm 5'7", so that windshield 100% works for me, where it's cutting down your wind very significantly, to the point where, you know, it's very easy and comfortable to hold 90 miles per hour on this bike, assuming that you find a highway where that's a legal speed limit, right? But it will make high speeds on your bike very comfortable to sit at, right? Whereas those same speeds with, say, a quarter fairing or a road warrior, you're gonna be a little bit more on it. You're not gonna be staying chill. You're not gonna be staying low. You're gonna be a little bit more, I'm feeling the wind punishing me. So, but at the same time, this fairing gets you enough wind where I am set on a hot day. I'm totally set on a hot day with the vents and with the height of the windshield. It's perfect for me, right? So you still get a very reasonable amount of airflow, even though it's cutting the wind so much. So that's one thing I think you should know, is don't think that you're going to get this thing and you're going to get zero wind anymore. That's not the situation. You're still going to get wind, but it's just optimized. Like, whoever originally designed this thing probably had a couple degrees in engineering, because, man, it's like, it is totally the optimal amount of air. The best thing I could compare it to is if you've ridden a road glide and you're happy with how that feels, that's the most easy thing to compare it to in terms of the amount of wind flow that you're going to get. So look, at the end of the day, I've said this before, I'm about a year in. I could do a separate video just about a year review, you know, my thoughts on the fairing after running it for a full year. But at the end of the day, I am recommending this fairing to someone who is really looking to crush miles and who is looking to crush miles at high speeds. That's who the fairing is made for, while also still having some nimbleness and some throwability of a Dyna frame, right? Because it does feel different than a bagger. It feels completely different than a bagger frame. And I would argue that you're going to get way more nimbleness with this setup than you're going to get on a bagger. So again, FXDLSBROOKLYN is recommending it for anyone who's putting in the real miles, and anyone who's putting in the real miles at some, let's say, spirited speeds. But again, that doesn't mean that if you're in a situation like how I'm riding right now, you're doing a lot of inner city riding and you really like the aesthetic, don't let that stop you from buying it if you are really just into it. So yeah, that's it, man. I guess the only other thing I would say, like, if you're looking to do this upgrade, is personally, I think this should probably be one of the last things that you do to your bike. I would most likely do my bars, or do my suspension, or do my exhaust before I would invest in a fairing like this. So for me, on this bike, I'm pretty much done with things to do at this point. This was one of the last big upgrades, and yeah, that's kind of how I feel about it. Oh, and you're gonna get a bonus number 7. I can't, let's see, can I get my fingers up? Ooh, look at that. Oh, he's a real stunt guy. But you're gonna get a bonus number 7 thing that you should know, and that is that a lot of people also reach out to me and they're saying, hey, you know, I see this on Dynas all the time. It's definitely something that's trending in the Dyna scene right now. Yes, that's true. And a lot of people ask me, like, well, could I throw it on a bike that's not a Dyna? Say, like a Road King? And my answer to that is 100%. Like, just because you're seeing most of these builds on Dynas doesn't mean that it will not work out well on another frame. So I've seen a couple builds out there that are Road Kings, and let me tell you, man, it looks very, very at home on a Road King. I really like some of the builds that are going on where people, you know, took a bike that does come stock with no fairing, and what I think is optimized it with this fairing. So I think it looks great on a Road King. I would love to feel how it rides on a Road King. I'm sure it's amazing, but don't let the fact that you're not on a Dyna stop you from getting the fairing. You know, the fairing was originally for FXRs, right? It is very at home on an FXR. It's very at home on the new Softails, such as the Lowrider S. So it doesn't just have to be a Dyna thing. Yeah, if you like traffic, come on down to Fulton Avenue at any time during the day. It's a some good little traffic. All right, but I am actually picking up Jennifer, and we're gonna continue riding into the day. But I do hope that this video was helpful if you are someone who is considering getting this fairing for your bike. Again, I can make a separate video about a review after running it for a year. But I hope those 7 things that I mentioned are helpful if you are considering running this fairing. Oh, and there she is, Jenny with the showy RF 1400. You all set?
Yep.
Alright. Okay, so we are off. We got some precious cargo on the back now, so I'm going to actually take my riding down to a more reasonable level. I'm not going to do some of the tactical maneuvering you've been seeing now at this point. We want to keep our precious cargo safe. But, you know, that's only 7 things. I'm sure there's a bunch more that you should be taking into consideration if you are going to make this upgrade. Like I said, it is a bike-changing, life-changing upgrade. It's going to significantly change the ride and the look of your bike. So it's not something you want to just take lightly, because again, it's an expensive upgrade. You're doing a lot of work to your bike, and once you throw it on and you go that direction, it's not so easy to go back. It is not easy to go back. I could imagine that being a very expensive and annoying process. So you kind of want to be sure. You kind of want to be sure. And the easiest way to do that is to do what you're doing right now, which is talk to people who are running it. The even better, if you have somebody that trusts you enough to ride their best fairing that Harley Davidson has ever produced, then go take their bike for a ride and see how it feels. That's probably the best way to do it. But I can't recommend it enough. It's been an amazing journey with this fairing. I'm never going back. I'm super happy with it, and I hope if you're if it's right for you, then pull the trigger on it, because I'm trying to get all my friends to get this fairing. I'm kind of hoping that here on the East Coast, within 2 or 3 years, it's just all FXRT fairings. That's the goal here. Just an army of FXRT fairings. See that? Let people cross. Spread love. It's the Brooklyn way. But I'm going to continue on my beautiful Saturday out here. Myself and Jenny are going to go get lunch. I hope this video was helpful. I'm trying to, every now and then, bring you all content that's actually useful, instead of content of me just riding around and loving my life on this bike. Sometimes the content's got to be even slightly useful, so that's what I was going for with this video. As always, stay safe out there and stay low. Shout out to all my Patreon supporters, the Outride Your Demons tier, as well as the Stay Low crew. Appreciate the support. Couldn't do it without y'all. FXDLS Brooklyn, didn't you say that you were going to take down the tactical maneuvering? What are you doing, man? Come on. Do you even ride? Alright, but we're getting too crazy here. Stay safe, stay low, embrace a positive mental attitude. Best way to do that is run an FXRT fairing on your Dyna. And on that, FXDLS Brooklyn is out.